We're gonna do it one more time. Yes, for the interactive. Welcome back. All right, now we are going through a lot of movements with regards to our information and the way that we share stuff. Okay, so at this point, what we're going to do is we're going to have our intro for today, which is Mr. Ron Bautista. Welcome, Ron.
Thank you, Artito. ¿Cómo estás?
Todo bien, todo bien, todo bien. Okay, so the nature of the intro is to do several things in today's Flash episode number 11. Okay, one is do the intro for Ron. Okay, give us some information with regards to Ron's project, what he's up to, the things that he's involved in, and the things that he's looking to accomplish in 2023. I think they're very valuable because it has information. It has information that most people should be aware of with regards to elections, with regards to a process that we all should be informed about because we're all part of it. Okay, so Ron Bautista, today, please give us a little bit about yourself. Let the audience hear a little bit of you with regards to what's up with you? What's going on? Tell me, you are running for county commissioner. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'm running for county commissioner here in New
Cool.
Jersey.
Congratulations. In Hoboken, is that right?
In Hoboken, New Jersey, that's right.
Hoboken in New Jersey. Now, I'm in Texas. Now, you're in a different state.
Yeah.
It happens. People communicate. People communicate, but it's a similar process that we have, in Texas and in New Jersey with regards to elections, All right, cool. So tell me a little bit about your platform, about the nature of, how long you've been looking to get into this office, why this office in particular, what does this office do that is part of the campaign that you're working?
Yeah, no, so to give you a bit of background. So,
sure, a little bit of background.
I was born in Ecuador.
Oh, hold on one second. We gotta jump in. Oh man, we gotta jump in. Oh man, look at this guy right in the middle. Right in the middle. You gotta give it to this guy, man. Hey man, we're on, man. You're on. Are you ready? He's got a connection. This guy's on vacation. Jumping in just in the middle of the most interesting part. Okay. That's okay, man. Hopefully we'll see if he jumps back on. All right, cool, man. He's in there. Okay, so you're from Ecuador. Keep going.
Yeah, no, so I was born in Ecuador. I came here 23 years ago.
23 years ago.
Jacinto.
There you go.
So it's fine or what?
Yeah, man, just keep going. He'll catch up.
No, so I came here 23 years ago. I was born in Ecuador. I was an undocumented immigrant for 11 years.
Okay.
Fortunate enough to really, be part of, have a process, a road to citizenship. So I became a U.S. citizen 6 years ago.
Okay.
And the reason why I had to migrate from Ecuador was because of political decisions, corruption, things that happened back in Ecuador. And so I always thought, either I become frustrated with politics and say to hell with it, or do I get involved and change it up? So that's what I've been doing. I've been involved ever since I got my green card. I wanted to make sure that I was plugged in, that I was involved with the community where I live at. But I understand that really the politics in the local government is where things can happen because you're changing a system. And you're affected. That way you can get things done and help the community.
Okay. So you said a lot. You gave me a lot of information at that particular in that single breath. It looked like, did you breathe during the whole thing? So
family though. I'm your cousin, so I think it's a family.
Okay, I got you, which is why I understood it. But I'm like, wait, hold on, questions. You mentioned system. You mentioned discussing the system. What are some things that the system is part of? What are involved in the system? Like, what are we discussing here?
Yeah, so to understand a system is there's an act for every action. There's a reaction, right? And so a system is not just the government itself, but the people that live where that government is at, right? And so, just because I'm not an elected official just yet doesn't mean I can't have influence. I identify the influence that I have. My voice is one of them because I'm able to speak directly to people. Issues I care about, that I connected with the issues that other people care about. And building those coalitions and people who support a certain thing, so that way you can push for change at your community. And that's how the system really works is, you have the government and you have to see what pain points you can hit, right? So that way you can do that change and the government and whatever you want to change moves that direction.
I gotcha.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you.
I have a question, Ron.
Yeah, Jacinto.
So nice to meet you, by the way. It's a really pleasure. Thank you for being on our show. I have a question. How do you deal with showing people? What I mean is like the average people, because I feel like maybe the government may have brainwashed people, like your family, right, or your friends. Like
everybody.
You can't even have these conversations with your friends and family without them getting upset because they feel a certain way about the government. So how do you kind of cross that bridge with your family?
So you're never going to have 100% of people, right, on board. It's just, living it. So it's a lot of it is being authentic. So I'm not doing it, hey, this is political me and this is like regular me.
Yeah.
I'm always me. Like I used to get confronted actually by somebody in politics, be like, you have to have things separately. You can't be the same. I'm like, yeah, I can. And it's running, in politics in my terms instead of the terms of what has been established. And there's some policies that the people in my family don't agree with, but that's okay. And just keeping it friendly and respectful. It's more about that. It's about making sure that everybody's on the same page. And hey, if you're gonna get mad in a conversation, then just don't get into that conversation. I do like to really have certain conversations that get people thinking, right? So it's not about saying I'm right and that's it. It's about me saying, oh, well, how about you see it this way? And it's kind of like when you put a little bit of something that heals a wound, right? It burns a little bit, so you get a little bit of pushback, but then it starts healing. So that's what I try to do whenever somebody that that I love, right, and that maybe doesn't understand where I'm coming from. But I'm always saying, hey, I'm doing this because people we have a lot more commonalities than you think. The way I group people really is everyday people versus the politicians. Because they have, the political influence and people who they respond to, that they owe themselves to. And then you have everyday people who don't get into those positions just because they kiss the ring, but because they actually earned that position.
Kiss the ring. I love that reference.
Okay. So one of my questions that I had was about the commissioner, the commish position.
Yes.
What does it do? Whose ring am I kissing?
I'm not kissing no ring. It's funny because whenever I would hear commissioner, I would think of like
a red phone.
Yeah.
Batman.
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking.
It doesn't have to do with law enforcement.
What?
Although there is a law enforcement component in the county.
Oh, I see. Okay, all right.
That's why I was saying that even though democracy functions in a very similar ways, names mean different things wherever you live at. Right? So for us, there's the city governments and then there's the county government.
Okay.
And then there's the state government.
Gotcha.
So the county government is for things that are regional. So it's things that affect cities like are very close together.
Okay.
Right? And that way, like, give an example, there are avenues and streets that cross over from city to city. That's actually the responsibility of the county government because it's a regional issue.
Okay.
It's a regional issue because you don't live on an island. If there's a homeless population here, they can moving also to the nearby city. When it comes to things like that, and just to give you perspective of the commissioner position, he's a legislative position, approves laws at the local level, approves appointees from the executive. So it's executive and legislative, just like any other kind of government as well.
Okay. You have mentioned a couple of things with regards to, let's see, you mentioned, I think budget was one of the questions that we asked for. So what is it? Oh, the budget. Since you're going to be the commissioner, hopefully, if everything goes well, can you describe a budget? Like, what is a budget? Like, bring it down. People sometimes feel like, oh, the budget. And I don't really feel like 100% of people that actually get upset about the budget really know exactly what the budget is. Some people may, but I feel like, let's iron out a budget so that we can be clear about that. And then go, okay, got it, what the budget is.
So that's putting pen to paper where your priorities are as a government.
Okay.
Because with money, without designating money to a program.
Okay, designating money. Okay.
Doesn't happen, right? So you can talk a lot of crap, but if there's no money to back it up,
right,
it doesn't happen. So it's basically approving this is what our priorities are going to be and what we're going to do in the funnel.
Gotcha.
And we're going to decide that that's how much money we're going to put into it, and that's the budget.
Okay. So I guess there's an association here from what I hear that there is prioritization based on size of the budget. Is that typical? Is there ways to maybe prioritize, but maybe not fund as much, but try to figure out how to reduce the budget cost, but then still get what you need? I'm just throwing things out.
That's exactly what it is too. It's figuring out what the priority is. And like you could spread it out, and then it's not enough at all, right? You get crumbs for everybody. Or you could say what's working and what's not, right? And then, but based on that evaluation and based on your priorities too. So
right. There's limitations. There's limitations to the budget. Is it? Oh, this is great. Oh, now we're moving into science and math and stuff. Is there room for an infinite budget?
Well,
you know what I mean? Like. So there's limitations to the budget, like right.
There's like your budget or my budget. There's no.
Right. So the state of New Jersey, Hoboken, your budget is going to have a limitation to it.
Well, there's no rule in terms of how much it is the top, but you have some money coming in and some money coming out.
Right? You can make up your budget with whatever you want to, but you're like, hey, this is my made up budget. I don't know how I'm going to pay for it. But this is my priorities. Okay.
And, you know, like the budget hasn't been an issue in the past few years. Only this last year they actually they didn't have a surplus. But they, past at least 4 years, they had the county government had about $50 million of surplus every year.
Oh, okay.
And so it varies, but that's the idea is you have to figure out where the money's coming from and where it's going.
Gotcha.
I have a question. So it feels like sometimes the big government, the budget is never ending, right? It feels like sometimes like we're in a humongous hole, right? Don't we owe $13 trillion to China or something like that? So we're in a continuous giant hole, but yet things continue to run. Things continue to work. People still get their paychecks. So how does that work on a smaller scale like in Hoboken?
Yeah, so that's the thing is we're not the federal government, right? So the federal government is also in connection with the Treasury Department and the money supply. So there's a whole bunch of all the different components that I'm not even in that conversation, right? Because it's more politics. For us, it's like it comes from either services or also some federal funding too, because the county also, like there's some cities that are small that wouldn't qualify for certain grants from the federal government or funding from the federal government to fund programs at the local level. So a larger body of a government at the local level that gathers a lot larger number of people is the one that is able to qualify for that funding, right? So. So those are the different limitations of like a city like Hoboken, the city government is almost 60,000 people, right? But that doesn't qualify to apply for funds for the federal level, like for example housing, right? Or like all this different funding that really has to go through the county government and going through the local level. And those are the limitations that we have is that we are getting it directly from local taxes. Property taxes is actually a percentage of the overall property taxes that you get. Here, property taxes and your property taxes go to a percentage to the city, a percentage to the school district, and a percentage to the county government.
Okay. It is, and I hear information, and I'm kind of beginning to process it even more, and I'm starting to also come up with thoughts with regards to, some potential solutions with regards to funding. Is some of the things that we always kind of work in. Government obviously is a larger scale. In contrast to what I'm typically involved with, which is like local nonprofits and things of that nature. However, I'm thinking there's some connection points where some of the projects that we work that can be worked on to battle some of those things that you mentioned, which are like maybe homelessness is a big one, and so
that's a big one
because I sense it as a growing concern, at least on my part, and so having these conversations and putting it out on the social media and things of like I'm looking for solutions for homelessness so that I can maybe present to somebody that doesn't have solutions. I'm not sure. I'm trying to take the initiative on that. So as I hear you, giving some information to us with regards to like how those get kind of handled in the government. I go, oh, okay, well, this is a part of the government that handles that part. And this, in my perception, doing this right here, allows for some solutions to be made to allow for people to save on taxes. Okay, this is another strategy, an additional strategy to the one that we're working with is additional funding and then save on taxes to create some collaboration strategy with regards to some problems have been solved here, some here. Let's join some communications and then see if there's a way to create repetitive solutions. Does that make sense a little bit or no?
Yeah, no, and that's the thing too is the government doesn't have to reinvent the wheel. So, for example, there are nonprofits that already do
right.
And then they get mixed funding. Like some of it is from fundraising from like individuals or from foundations, and some of it can come from the government as well. And then the government doesn't have to do it on its own. And many times the nonprofits have certain flexibility specialize in certain that then the government doesn't have to develop a whole department to tackle those challenges.
Right.
So what is the answer to homelessness? Because we've had
we need solutions. We need some thoughts on that.
What is it? Because Roberto and I have had many conversations about this because it's becoming a problem in Houston, it's a problem in Austin, it's a problem all over the country, and people are doing multiple crazy things like shipping people away and putting them in these makeshift hotels in California. Like, what do you think is the solution?
So first it has to do with housing first, right? So it's harder if you have maybe your issue is not addiction, maybe that person's issue is just literally income. It's harder to really lift yourself up out of that situation if you don't have a house to live at, right?
Yeah, how are you gonna step up your bootstraps with no bootstraps?
Exactly. So that it's about and I give choice. If you have a 70-year-old like mom, like grandmother, right? That you can't tell her like if she's on a fixed income. You can tell her, well, you gotta earn more money in order to pay your rent. Like that's a big
right.
That's why senior housing is also a big project. I call it nonprofit apartment units because also like affordable housing could be a range of things, right? And there's different levels to it. And, some nonprofit, and the concept of nonprofit housing, nonprofit apartment units is basically that there is no profit intent, and so that way you still have your for-profit built, but it's about building those alternatives for people who are not able to make it. That's one thing. And having also support in terms of programs, efficiency programs, that's how you continue the process in order to help more people and be able to affect that change. But if we're just thinking shelters, that doesn't really take it to the next level of actually solving the issues. And reports have shown how that housing first approach helps more people actually get out of that homelessness and any addiction issues that they may be going through.
Okay, so what I just heard was there's going to be some houses needed.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Perfect. Houses.
Yeah.
Got it. So part of the solution involves houses.
I have one more follow-up real quick. I've actually had a conversation. Are you familiar with Richie Torres, the representative in the House of Representatives?
Yeah.
So I've had some conversations with him through Twitter about this, and he's been just the typical, it's them. We're trying to do it, and it's them. And then I'll tweet a Republican, and they'll say the same thing. Like, they're pointing fingers at each other. And meanwhile, there is a homeless Vietnam veteran that lives under the freeway outside my apartment that I go and I give him food and water almost every day. And I tweeted him, I said, you know what, while y'all are arguing about this, I just went outside and gave this homeless Vietnam veteran a jacket and food. And they're just like continuing to talk about the politics. But I'm like, why are y'all still arguing and pointing fingers at each other? So that part of the homeless situation really frustrates me and confuses me.
Yeah, no, and I hear you about that. And it gives, not to compare, but to relate, right?
Yeah.
I like to clear it up because there's no comparison, but there's only relatability. It happens a lot with government and people in politics that they're just thinking of who should be the one doing something instead of thinking, how do I solve it? So the way I run for office, and it's not my first time running for office, I ran for the first time in 2020 and I got 40% of the vote, and that was in my first 4 years as a U.S. citizen.
Nice.
But the way that I'm working it is I want to show people what I could do at the job before even getting there, right?
Nice.
Because, like, all right, imagine if he actually gets to that seat at the table where they can make the decisions and push for budgets to do something like this. So I'm actually on the board of a nonprofit that it's called the Coalition for Food and Health Equity, and it's profit. It's led by Dr. Lisa Carter. She's amazing. And what they do is a combination. They look at it globally, right? So one is giving people dignity in the quality of the food that they provide people in need. The second one is to also do it by elevating local restaurants that are the ones providing the food, high quality, healthy foods to people. And so they started with the Hunger Project, which is they would deliver. It's like Uber Eats, but delivering to people who need food. And then they expanded the program. So instead of having to deliver individually to 100 people, they're putting smart community fridges in, for example, the Hudson Price Center, which is a community center, right? So that people can come in, open the fridge, take what they want, and it's not raw food. It's already prepared food that's healthy. They can take it, they can go, they don't have to pay. But the smart fridge is able to scan and figure out the inventory so they know when to restock it. And they can start looking at what are the patterns in terms of what they're preferring to eat. But it's not a hand-me-down. It's something that you go and you pick up. And the quality of the food is also great because when you go to specific like places for help, usually you get canned food and things like that is not healthy for a lot of people. So then you're tackling different aspects. And when you're talking about taxes and the issues with money, that you have to look at it globally. It's not just the cost of the project. It's also what's saving you in terms of healthcare, because they're going to your local hospital and then you have to spend money on that as well as the government and as taxpayers. You're saving money in terms of health. You're actually improving the economy because you're supporting local restaurants. And you're improving the structure of the society that you live in, the community you live in, because there's people who are feeling better, more empowered and better about themselves, and now they're able to think forward and not just think backwards.
Okay, you want them up? You got one.
All right, that's why.
I'm holding the camera with the other
Okay, I stop here. Well, cool. I mean, this is all good information. Implementation of the plans, going through, and that's part of my next questions I have with regards to, okay, all right, so projects, right? So projects and things of that nature. One of the projects that I thought about maybe for homelessness, thinking about maybe some form of like a skill building program, like something to develop skills and things. It's difficult to say the nature of the program that's needed, but something along the lines where there's value. But the length of the projects. I want to compare these types of projects, at least when it comes to maybe long streets or freeways or housing, versus the position that's being held. Meaning, how long are these projects typically, from start to finish, and then how long is the position? Does it give us sufficient time for these situations to go to fulfill themselves? Does that make sense?
Yeah. So the term projects and in my. Think of this, like I might have a full-time job, I'm a marketing executive, and the whole idea is to, always have something to show for in the short term, and then also start talking about things that are bigger now, so it can get done in 1, in 2, maybe 3 years already completed. But always thinking that you have to also tackle the immediate, and then also start talking about now what you're going to be doing a bigger project for later. So that's one thing. It's okay if we have the 3-year terms. It's just about being conscious about the urgency of needs. What are some things that you can do to help now? What are some things that you're going to build from there?
I gotcha. Okay. So length of projects and then the length of the commissionership, you said is 3 years for the commissionership?
Yes.
Gotcha. Okay, so depending on the nature of the scale of the projects is the nature of whether or not they will be completed based on the information. Okay, have you reviewed, do you know what the budget is now? I'm curious also about the length of the prior commissioner, like how long have they been in office? I'm just curious, I don't know.
So $634 million is the annual budget for the county government.
Okay.
In Hudson County, and the current commissioner has been in office about 16 years or so.
16 years? Oh man, it's like oh okay, that's a long time. I guess he's been. I mean, maybe he knows what he's doing, but sometimes things could run better, things could be more efficient, depending. So you have to have your position come in and challenge what's in there and put your position up to see if there's a better way.
Yeah.
Roberto,
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
do you know who Strom Thurmond is?
No, not at the top of my head. How about that?
Strom Thurmond. Ron, you know who Strom Thurmond is?
Sounds familiar, but I'm not aware.
He is the oldest senator in the history of the United States.
Oh, is that the gentleman? Is that the gentleman from New York, by any chance?
I don't know what country, I don't know what state he's from, but I know I want to say it's like Kentucky.
Oh, okay, Kentucky.
It's in the middle of the United States. And he was like 100 and something years old and could barely walk. But they continued to vote for him because it was like he became like this figurehead. And it's like, why do we let these people continue to serve in office when they're like incompetent, literally? So I love the fact that you're like really kind of twisting this, kind of grabbing them by the balls, if you will, and making them like, hey, we got to do something about this.
That's right. It's because people get complacent. It's like, no, it's okay, everything is fine. It's like, hey, no, everything is not fine. We got to move things along.
that point, and it's affecting that change right now as we run for office. Like, because you push them so much, and they're like, "Oh shit, I gotta do something." and that's what's happening. And I'm not afraid of that. I'm like, yeah, you keep doing your thing, but what I'm talking about is way more than you could do in 6 months. So
yeah, right.
And people, because I've been talking about it for a while, somebody once told me, it was like, since when do you care about this topic? And I got receipts. I got articles that I written. I have video. And people remember that because I haven't stopped. It's not that, I'm just running for office in the last 6 months. It's because I've been around and I've been talking to people for a while now. So
yeah.
that's
consistency, baby, consistency.
And I never blame the voters, right? So many politicians, they're like, they didn't vote for me. The voters don't know what they're doing. I switch it up. It is our job as people who run for office to convince people. And if we don't do it, what we're gonna do is we gotta keep figuring it out.
That's right.
That's how I'm working on it. I'm working on building myself up, but also lifting everybody else up. And I'm like, hey, what do you care about? Oh, do you care about that issue? Here's something I'm thinking about. Do you think that that's something that could work? Yes? All right, let's run with it. Let's talk about it. And so it's about not just elevating myself, but it's elevating other people's top issues also.
Okay.
Ron, how do you feel about politicians that lie on their resume to get their job? Who kind of lie like George Santos. I mean, why do you feel about politicians that lie on their resume to get their job? And/or I was also wondering if you're in favor of drug tests for politicians.
I mean, I'm like, I don't think that people should, really leave their job, their lives in the resume. Whether you're,
no matter what the job is, right?
No matter what the job is, if you find on your resume, that doesn't really give a lot of confidence that you have to be working hard.
Because you're kind of starting off with the wrong foot in the door, saying like
the drug testing. I don't know. It really it's up in the air.
I would say it's reasonable to say to aspire to a society that doesn't require drug tests from anybody, but in the balance side, that people are not drugging themselves to death and things of that nature, where it's like, does this make sense? We should have to think, okay, who has to be drug tested, and why they drug tested is because, okay, people have to get drugged typically because there's a situation with the funds, and you want to give them funds, so you want to make sure that they're not wasting the money to make it. So if you solve the nature of the funding, which we've discovered that money is infinite, and so there's a situation with value that's not getting kind of fulfilled, we could create a situation where we're not even having to ask that question too much, I think. You know what I mean?
Well, the other side of that, too, is, in my opinion, no one should be drug tested. However, right now it's unbalanced. So
Yeah.
at the wellness center where I used to work, everybody had to be drug tested, and including the janitor. So why is it that the janitor of a gym who cleans poop all day is drug tested, but the man who makes the decisions on everything in my life is not? That's why I'm confused.
Well, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, and that's my daughter. And so that's the thing is to me the drug issue is a health issue.
Yeah, right, correct.
So it shouldn't be something because also if somebody has a drug problem,
right,
and get a job, that's only going to dig the hole deeper, because there's a reason behind the drug use. It's not just for shits and giggles. There's something behind the drug use, right? So it's more of a treatment rather than punishment. Then there's, but I mean, was it maybe 6 years ago, the job that I applied for in New York, I did get drug tested for before I started. But the job that I got 2 years ago, there was no drug testing. So maybe things have changed and shifted certain parts. But yeah, that's my opinion, that it's a health issue, not a criminality.
Yeah. And then it's hard also to be completely like this is how it should be, and there's obviously situations with safety, right? People that have particular jobs that are involved with safety, maybe like pilots and things of that nature. Okay, then maybe there. It's hard to say. It's hard to say in my end who all has to get. That's why it's like you all said, kind of imbalanced, right? What? Huh?
You know what? Regardless of what that is, I just decided right now that I'm going to vote for you for president. I'm going to write your name in that little spot, because you're hitting it on the head, man. You're absolutely right. At every aspect of everything you said, we need to come through all of these situations from a more human thought, a more common sense thought, which of course sense is not common, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. I went through all the questions that I had on my notes here. Cinto, did you have some more or something else that you want to? All right, cool. Ron, any final thoughts? Anything else you want to mention on your intro to the premium event? Let's see what's up. And by the way, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, I enjoy the conversation. I love the questions. And as I always tell people is, when I'm going to say here, I'm going to say out there. So, bring it.
Oh, okay, cool.
Well, always tell the truth. You never have to remember anything.
There you go.
Cool. All right. Well, everybody have a good rest of your day. See y'all next time.
Don't forget to subscribe to our channel.
Subscribe to the channel and vote. Subscribe to the channel. See you.